Make it plain.
Make it plain.
M.I.P.
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
God bless you. Get woke. Folks, MIP is now COVID-free, meaning free to all subscribers as we navigate this pandemic. We're thinking about everyone, and we've got to get through this together. So for a limited time, no fee to subscribe to Make It Plain on your favorite podcast app. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again, and as we have heard about the jobs numbers, what do they mean? How do we look at them in the context of an ever-shifting landscape? We want to get into that, as always, with our jobs and unemployment numbers expert. Every month, he joins us faithfully, and we appreciate him. He's a chief economist at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, centeronbudget.org. Our good friend, Chad Stone. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you?
Just fine, just fine. I know you've been busy and working hard, even in the pandemic. So, let's just start here. People were rehired, but it's possible that as quickly as some people went back to work with the surge in cases, that they may be right back off those jobs again, correct?
Correct. I did a pretty small tweet thread about it because my lead sentence was another jobs report that can't keep up with the virus.
Oh, right.
The world is changing under our feet.
Yeah. It literally is. 4.8 million up, but 14.4 million below what it was in February. Correct?
That's right. So employers added jobs in May, and then they added even more. In April. In May. I'll keep my months straight. They added jobs in May, and then they added more again in June, the 4.8 in June. A lot of jobs. However, the decline from February, April was a devastating month. April was the worst month. We had huge increases in unemployment, huge losses in jobs, and we got some of them back. However, both May and June, the time when the survey was taken that gathered the data to produce this report was still a time when businesses were opening a little bit and restrictions were being relaxed. But in the last couple of months, as the cases, the COVID cases are surging, lots of governors are putting more restrictions in, and so the jobs are going to be disappearing already.
Yeah.
From that 4.8 million.
Let's stay here for a minute. What do we know? Is it too early to know what sectors the 4.8 million were in?
Well, I think that they're in the sectors that took the biggest hit. That if restaurants are starting to open up and things like that, then the people earning low wages because they're in jobs that pay low wages for, in many cases, for historical reasons having to do with barriers to opportunity.
Right.
They got slammed
Right.
in April. They've come back some, but that may be short-lived again because of the closing down again.
Well, and I don't think that's a May, Chad, as uncertain as we can be about the economy. I think I think we can bank on that prediction.
That's right.
And not look like you and I are so prophetic for saying it. I mean, I think we know what's going on. Okay. Unemployment rate, 11.1% now, 3.5% in February. Still in recovery. That's where we were. Now, right now, white unemployment rate, 10.1. Latino, 14.5. Black, 15.4.
Right.
And just for good measure, so we can lay all this out. The change between February and today is 8.7 for the white community, 12.9% change for the Black community, 12.4% change for the Hispanic Latino population. That's right. Thank you for
those are percentage changes in the number of people with jobs. So those are job losses.
And again, if we look at Black and Latino, we're talking about people in these industries that are heaviest hit, and the industries. So wait a minute, Chad, let's be clear. The industries that are taking the hits, are they not also likely to be the industries where people are at a great risk of exposure?
Sure. If you're in a face-to-face industry, which was certainly restaurants and things like that, or taking care of people, that puts you at risk. We know that the reason we have social distancing is that when people are close to each other on a sustained basis, that's what causes the spread. And so yeah.
So wait a minute then, Chad. Can we not hypothesize that there is a direct relationship between more reopening and therefore more hiring and more jobs and increased COVID cases?
Increased COVID cases if really serious social distancing measures aren't taken. I mean, if you see hairdressers with a lot of equipment, masks and things like that, that provides substantial protection, even though it's close up. But you have to be doing that, and the customer has to be careful. Customers need to be wearing masks when they come in, and you can't guarantee that. But you're right that as we open up, the risk of the risk of the virus goes up. Although New York went through a really horrible time, and they got things under control, and they're taking precautions since. And I'm not sure that they're not the center of attention of cases going up anymore. That's out in the people who thought it could never happen to them.
Right. They thought that it wouldn't matter at all. Initial unemployment insurance claims for regular state programs. Is that right?
Yeah.
Week ending June 27th, about 1.4 million. The 4-week average seasonally adjusted is 1.5 million. A year ago, the 4-week average was just 225,000.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So remember, in 2019, the economy was really doing well, and lots and lots of people's job prospects improved substantially, and unemployment was down, and hence unemployment insurance was down. Yeah, today was a double data day. Every Thursday we get information on the previous week's unemployment insurance claims, and the first Friday of the month usually, but because of July 4th, we get the jobs report that you and I always talk about, and both of them came out today. So this morning I'm putting together information about the unemployment claims and information about the jobs report. Yep.
What do we know? Seems I heard someone on television talking about government jobs, state and local government jobs. What do we know about those numbers?
State and local government jobs have gotten clobbered. They are way down, and it could get worse, or some of it may be states and governments preparing for the next fiscal year. So states have balanced budget requirements, unlike the federal government, in their operating budgets. And so that means that when a recession comes along and states lose revenue, they either have to raise taxes or cut spending and lay employees off. And July 1st, yesterday, was the most state government fiscal years start on July 1st. And it was clear leading up to this that state revenues were going down a lot, and they were going to have to start to take measures. And so state and local governments have been laying off jobs April, May, and June by a lot. And so that's why one of the things that we and others are arguing for in the next relief package, which we hope we can get, is fiscal assistance from the federal government to state and local governments, primarily channeled through the states, so that they're not under the same amount of pressure to lay people off and so forth. Maybe hire some people back if they get the money. But states are looking ahead. They have they're thinking about their budgeting for the fiscal year that we're now in. They were thinking about it for a while, and they're saying, "Man, our revenues are going to be really bad, and we're taking steps to cut back ahead of moving into the fiscal year, but it could get worse." So yeah, that is a major problem in the economy, and it's a big hole.
Yeah.
Now, states have rainy day funds; they'll do that, but they're going to need help from the federal government.
Total employed population. Am I seeing this correctly?
Let's see.
54.6.
Right. The employment population ratio, the share of people with a job, right. that in February, 61%. And remember, that includes a lot of people who are retired. That it's the 16 and over population. So a lot of those people aren't even looking for jobs. So that's that. Donald Trump once tried to argue that was the unemployment rate, but he was counting people who were retired and didn't want a job. But he learned. So anyway, yeah. So in February, 61.1% of the population were working. In June, 54.6%. That's a huge drop. It's up a little bit from it was about 50% in April. Remember, April was when everything got slammed the worst, and come back a little bit in May and June. But I like to keep the focus on the whole, not on the fact that you've climbed out a tiny bit.
When was the last time we saw a drop that big historically? Would that have been in the recession?
Well, it didn't go down that much in the Great Recession. I'm not sure. I don't think in the data it's been this low for a very long time. Now, for a long time, the employment population rate, if we take a long view, the employment population ratio was increasing because women's labor force participation was increasing. So women were coming into the labor force. I'm talking over a very long span. And then it kind of peaked around 2000, and it's kind of drifted down a little since then. And a lot of that has to do with men. Men's labor force participation has been slipping for a variety of reasons.
So this is June. Undoubtedly, with the increased spread, the increased number of cases, when we get July's numbers at the end of July, this is undoubtedly going to look very different, isn't it?
July is almost surely going to be down. The numbers are going to be negative, probably, or at least probably negative rather than just smaller increases turning negative. So we got a big plunge in April. Climbed out a little bit in May, climbed out a little bit more in June. We're probably going to fall back in some in July. How much remains to be seen.
And so hence the real need for more relief.
Yes. Yes. We were talking about the unemployment insurance data. So one of the big successes so far of policy and the CARES Act is the substantial amount of relief that's gone to unemployed folks. Lots of money to lots and lots of unemployed, and that's really helped them to sustain their consumption and to sustain the economy somewhat. Now, we've talked about this before, that the boost to the weekly unemployment insurance benefit goes away at the end of this month. The $600 addition to what for many people is a rather paltry regular unemployment insurance benefit. So this has been a great success in keeping the economy from deteriorating worse, in helping out lots and lots of people who would be in really bad straits without it. But they are in danger after July 31st of losing important amounts of purchasing power, and don't really understand why. And maybe the president and the Republicans in the Senate are recognizing that it's not a good thing. People are not going to be happy when this happens, and maybe they'll be more enthusiastic about continuing the relief. We'll have to see.
They're realizing that. I
don't know.
Just the parties you just named, the individuals, just literally in the past 24 hours have agreed that people should actually wear masks.
Yes.
So,
well, I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, guess what? It's not just a blue state phenomenon, which is what they thought. And they're recognizing that. That's
well, hopefully they'll realize that. I mean, obviously there's been a lot of spin. Oh, the economy's great and everything's great.
Yeah.
But the actual, especially the numbers as they're changing, as you said, the ground shifting beneath us, that betrays that spin. But again, I didn't do well in economics in school, but you've taught me.
Oh, you've had lots of years of training now.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm saying, I wish I had you back in the day. But it's clear that if you extend and expand that unemployment insurance relief, as well as anything else you can throw in there, that's spending power. That's what the economy is built on. So at least something is still going on.
That's right. So unemployment insurance, SNAP, food stamp benefits, aid to state and local governments, and besides SNAP, some assistance and housing assistance to folks who are really struggling to get by, and don't have much income, don't have jobs, don't have much income. So general assistance, like, TANF is what's left of welfare, but beefing that up, and more housing assistance. So those are all things that help people and help the economy.
So have you had a chance to look at and I don't even know how accessible they are, so I don't mean to put you on the spot, but have you had a chance to look at employment numbers from other countries around the world during this pandemic and how that's being handled? I think we already know that other countries are doing a lot better than the United States in terms of offering relief. Many of them are. They came right out at the beginning and were like, okay, we're going to take care of our populations. But have you had a chance to look at those numbers and how those economies are being impacted?
I haven't. A major difference is a lot of European countries gave relief to employers, and that was to give employers an incentive to keep workers.
That's right. That's true.
In the United States, we really did do a lot with unemployment insurance. We took a different route, but it helped the same people. And given the difference between our labor relations between management and labor in Europe, they bargain over a lot of things with the government, employers, and the labor unions all working together. and we're not in that situation. But I would say that amazingly, we really did a pretty good job with the CARES Act, especially with unemployment insurance and some other things. So we don't pale in comparison with them, but we will if we let things expire.
Yeah. Congress is going home for now, I know, but I think they're due back on the 20th.
Yeah, they have to do something by July 31st, because that's when the unemployment insurance checks get smaller.
So they come back on the 20th, and they literally have 11 days to try to put something together.
Yeah.
And by that time, won't we get a hint of what this new surge is doing to employment? We'll get a little glimpse of that because of the Thursday report. Because the Thursday report you get, right?
Yeah, they tell us about who's on unemployment insurance.
Yeah. So those numbers inevitably are probably going to go up. I mean, that's a seesaw, man. You go back to work, surge happens, then you're back off of work again.
Right.
So from an economic point of view, it would just be better to continue with some of the or phase back some of the reopenings, give people the supplemental income until we can literally make sure this virus is dead.
Right. Yeah. Or that, well, there are people start to misbehave if they're cooped up too long. So there has to be, I mean, they break the curfews and things like that. So if you do a lot of testing and you enforce distancing, you probably can have a trade-off between everything being completely locked down and everything being open and spreading the virus. That requires a balance. Requires a lot of leadership to discuss the value of doing it that way and the benefits of doing it that way. So we can't guarantee that we'll see that, but that's the best. And economists, non-ideological economists across the spectrum, and I'm talking about responsible conservative economists, are almost all saying, fight, give relief, do everything you can to get the economy back going, which includes, I don't mean being dangerous, but spend the money.
Mm-hmm.
And don't worry about it at this point. When you're in a crisis, spend the money so that you'll come out stronger when it's safe to go back to work and so forth. People will have some money in their pockets. State and local governments will not have cut back dramatically. They'll continue to provide services. So that's why we hope that we go big again in this next package.
It's just that we're dealing with an administration that seems to think they can convince everyone that everything they've done is right and the economy is great. But the very people they're talking to, I mean, we know, unless you just are utterly interested in deceiving yourself, everybody knows it's not. And especially right now, as this thing is surging. It's just not a good place for us to be right now.
I think what we're seeing, to your point, is that there is a disconnect in even supporters of the president on accepting everything that he says and believing their own eyes about what's going on.
Yeah. Lastly, we talked about race. You have the numbers on gender at all too? Just curious about women, because in a lot of these at-risk industries or at-risk service jobs, a lot of women working jobs too.
Right. We did some analysis back in either with I guess with the March report starting to kind of look at what industries were the job losses concentrated in, and linking it up with other data about who works in those jobs and who suffer. So a lot of job losses are in low wage, these industries that pay low wages. The bottom third of industries ranked by the average wage they pay, and it's Black people and Latino people. It's people with less than a bachelor's degree. It's women. It's everyone you could think of. Everyone but me. I have all the privilege. But people like me are doing pretty well.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. This is a lot. Okay, folks. Unemployment rate 11.1%. Again, 3.5% in February is what it was. So 4.8 million jobs in this report. And you're going to hear that, as this is talked about. But if it's reported objectively, it'll be within the context of this new surge that we've seen, and shouldn't get too excited about this. Last time we talked, Chad told us not to get too excited. So y'all better listen to Chad.
Dismal science.
Huh?
It's the dismal science of economics.
Yeah. CenterOnBudget.org, Chad CBPP on Twitter. And he had, posts a lot of threads there, so you could see what he's talking about, and he helps make great sense of all of this on his Twitter feed, as well as on Make It Plain, and we're always grateful to have him. Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome. Always great to be with you.
We'll talk again next month.
Yep.
Probably won't be great news, but it's always good to hear great to hear your analysis. Okay.
Take care.
All right. Thank you.
God, you are our refuge. Send our ancestors to guard our doors. Cast out this virus from our communities and our bodies. Heal, bless, and protect everyone listening and their loved ones. Thank you for listening to Make It Plain and Get Woke. Remember to listen, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.